We're back, Joe. Man, the show is about to continue. Old man in technology, the story doesn't change. But hey, Thursday. We are here. Thank you for everybody who's waiting. Everything is started. All right. I'm not gonna lie, Joe.
Let me ask you one thing.
Yeah.
Very important. Did you unmute us?
Yes. We are unmuted. That's a very good question.
Yeah, that's important.
Actually, you should ask the chat, right? I know chat kept us legit last time.
Yeah.
Are our mouths moving and nobody is here, or can you guys hear us? I hope everybody can hear us.
Yeah, but I was just checking the stream myself, so I could hear myself, so I think we're good. I could hear you as well.
Nice, that's good.
Bro, like usual, you know what's happening lately? I kept waiting for the Thursday to come, right? Because this is such an enjoyable time that I have here, and the latest weeks where we have so many conversations, were so good. We're so I don't know, inspirational to some extent. I learned a lot. And today I thought, man, I think I want to do some retrospective.
Nice.
I know we just had like 8 episodes, and this is our 9th episode. But I was actually trying to watch the first news, the first ones.
Okay.
I couldn't. I couldn't watch. I don't know. Not yet. But when I see where we started and where we are today, like in such a short period of time, I just think, man, where can we get it from here, right?
Yeah.
Because wow, and even some friends, like some of my friends, they were saying, oh, I can see the improvement, right?
Yes.
Even Diana, I was in a meeting with her today.
That.
Yeah, and I got in a meeting, and I was with microphone and camera, and she said, "Oh, I see what Jeremy is doing with you."
That's too good. That's classic. That's comedy, right? Hey, it's good though. There's something about like having a conversation. The first time I ever got it was actually doing like interviews. But I was interviewing for companies, and I would be they made, during COVID and stuff, like you would look through the camera and do the web interviews. And I remember them always saying, they always make comments about like, man, your webcam is so nice. Like, are you on a show or something? And I'm like, no, I'm not on a show. But it's just nice when you're in a group and you have a good quality camera, right? They see you. Yeah. I think it improves your value as a candidate too. For some reason, it's like the camera looks good. They just see you. They're like, okay, This person's serious. So yeah. I think
you stand out from a crowd, definitely. And I can tell that. Oh, I'm sorry. And I can tell when I first saw you on one of the meetings, the MVP meetings, Americas.
Yeah,
like you was the one that stood out. Even though you were not speaking, but I could see everybody's camera, and this guy knows what he's doing. I didn't know you, but I knew you knew things, right?
Hey, there you go. Though. Hey, see, that's a lesson to everybody, right? People pixel peek, man. They look like if you're on there and you're in a group, you're doing it. People do care about the quality. It just sticks out. And if you could do that, right, it's already hard in this space alone, right? YouTube, podcasting, what we're getting into. Definitely it's hard, right? And I gotta shout out to everybody that's even in here putting stuff in the chat, right? Crash Mo, thank you guys. We're gonna get your cash apps ready because we're gonna do some giveaways around. Let's do it like at the end of the show, maybe like 15 till. We'll do some giveaways, send some people some money. If you don't drink like us, speak of that, I saw you taking a sip. My can's still uncracked. What do you got?
Today I have something new.
Okay.
Poppers.
You said poopers? Poppers.
Poppers. From not a poop.
Not a poop. But a poop on the party. No, that's good.
But, it's a nice lager. I like. So they say it's a golden lager. So, yeah, pretty much. Pretty good.
Looks
I
good.
like it.
Yeah,
I like good. The more stronger beers. I feel that there's more flavor to it. But let me
Hmm.
know what you are drinking.
So I have a Crown Royal Washington Apple. That's what I got, right? A little cocktail, 7% Canadian whiskey, splash of cranberry. You know me getting my fruity drink on. And I think it's
By the
pretty
way,
good.
that reminds me that I owe you some beers,
Yeah.
and I have to ship to you, right?
Hmm.
I want to find some local ones that I really like. Steam Whistle is going to be one of them,
Okay.
because man, I don't know how to appreciate, the partnership that we have, and to be honest, the things that you gave me, like,
Hmm.
to everybody that is watching us or listening on Spotify, this very microphone that I have here was a gift from my friend Jeremy, and I was, talking back to, quality. I was always struggling. First was with the camera, and
Yeah.
you also gave me the camera, by the way.
It was a back
And
camera. I wasn't using it.
yeah,
So
I was struggling with my webcam, and I just thought, my God, this is so bad. I don't like this. And then you hold me the camera, and then the other day, oh, but my voice is weird. I don't like the sound that And then you gave me the microphone. So, man, really, thank you. I really appreciate
of
this.
course, brother.
It matters a lot, and
Thank
it
you.
shows how we are, investing, not
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
financially, right? But
Hmm.
time wise,
Oh,
spending time thinking, like creativity, all the you know off the screen
hmm.
things that we do.
No, absolutely, and that's part of the rub too, right? Is like that's why my appreciation and thanks to you. I've been wanting to do this. I've even had conversations with people in the past about starting a podcast, right? No lie, if I wasn't doing this with you, I'd just probably be talking to the wall, for an hour, once a week because I just enjoy talking about this and that's kind of how I think, right? I kind of brainstorm, I research, and I just have conversations about what stuff's going on. So I've seen your effort and your support, and to see like you investing in it like I do, and we don't exactly, it's not like we've clearly defined what our end goal is, but we just enjoy doing this and we know we're going to give it a serious run, right? And so I thank you for committing to this crazy journey with me. We've got 9 on the books, right? 9. So I'm going to give you a quick insight. We're going to
Yeah.
skip episode 10. All right, it's going to be a lost episode. I got a plan. We'll talk about it offline. But
Okay.
I've already got this thing I'm working on. So we're going to skip 10. We're going to get them. We'll get back to it, I promise. But I got an idea. So we're going to. But anyway, since you were complimenting me on the microphone, I'm holding you publicly accountable that whether the people like it or not, hell or high water, we're going to get to episode 50. Right? That was our agreement. So
Yeah,
I'll hold
that
you
was our
accountable.
first agreement, and
Yeah.
I will I will quote one of Brazil's former presidents. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it was a lady, and she said, I'm not going to establish, a goal, a target, but whenever I reach that, I will double.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's a good thought
Right.
here.
Well, at least here we
Oh,
establish a
full
goal,
52. I like that.
which is
Yeah.
50 episodes, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely, I feel that we are going to double, triple, and quadruple this target.
Absolutely. I've got some crazy plans, man. And if we can pull off half of what I think we can, I think we're in a good mood. And I see Mo, he said 50. We got to make it 52, right? We'll do 50 plus 2 lost episodes, 10 being one of them. I got a kind of an idea plus a guest, right? And so, oh, speaking of that, man, I had a crazy, before we kind of perfect segue into I'm so excited talking about AI. I had a conversation with somebody who reached out to me on LinkedIn, and we had a conversation. And it's a gentleman I highly respect, right? And he's been doing some podcasts and a show, and it's called "What's the Buzz?" All right, and I don't know if you've seen this on LinkedIn, but he's got like this cool. The concept is incredible, and I love it. I've thought of some similar ideas, but he's got this red buzzer, and there's different questions, and it's sort of like a scrolling thing, and it's all sort of tied into intelligent automation, AI. It's tied into business and educating leaders, but it also throws in like humanistic questions. When I watch it, he always nails these questions where he'll ask them like, "Hey, if AI were a spirit animal, what would it be, or something crazy like that. And don't ask me that. I'd never know. But anyway, he talked to me. We struck up a conversation, and we're going to coordinate, and I'm going to go on that show. And then I'm going to try to parlay and have him come over on our show because he's a brilliant mind, a very, very, very smart guy. His name's Andreas. So he's somebody I've always kind of been following. Very incredible person. So looking forward to that.
That's nice. That's nice.
But
well,
yeah.
Speaking of which, right? So we started this just as we two, having this meaningless conversation. Not meaningless. I mean,
randomness. Basically,
I used the totally wrong word. So how can I say this? We felt, we were just chatting, right? We were just chatting, we two, and we very soon we thought, okay, we need some structure, and we started doing that. So it was nice, and then we got a couple of friends right over. Vinny was the first one, and then Russell last week. They were our guinea pigs, right? So we were testing with them.
Thank you to them as well.
With new gears, with new software, with new configurations, and man, that was so awesome, right? I really enjoyed the conversations, and I most of the time I was quiet because I was paying attention to what they were saying and what you were also saying, because that was so interesting, was so insightful. And man, we have to do more. Like you just said, you have this other guy you are planning. I also have some folks that I'm talking on the side to bring them to the show. They already agreed. It's just a matter of finding a calendar. But yeah, let's do more, and let's bring more smart people to the show, smarter than us. So
right.
We can learn from them.
Absolutely. And those that listen in and take in some of this information and indulge us with their, time to listen to what we have to say, right. And get their ideas. And so they can hear this stuff too, right. I think that those people were great. I think that one thing that we can do, which I like that we're already kind of approaching, is the variety too, right? Vinny's someone who's fresh in the market versus Russ, who's been doing this at a high level using AI, right?
Exactly.
Plus, if we get people like Andre and all these other people that are very experienced at a senior level too, right? I think that gives a nice variety. And I also think we'll learn a lot, right? We're pretty well educated in this space, but I beg to dare that there's always something you can learn. So I think that there's plenty of room for us to find really interesting guests. We got to get George too, because I have some questions too. I know you had some questions. We're doing this retrospective, but I was in a conversation last week on Friday, and all I did was regurgitate some information that you and I have been privy to in some of the conversations we've had, and they called me on it. They're like, "Hey, we're not going to shoot you. You're the messenger, and would love to get your own opinion on it, but these are conflicting points." And so I wanted to get your thought on that.
What's that?
Oh, so you want me to dive in? You want me to go for the guts? So
okay, let's go for it.
So I was in a group. If you guys are on LinkedIn, there's a group I highly recommend called Bot Nirvana. It's sort of a community of intelligent automation professionals who work on high tech. And so last week I had the honor to go in there and speak a little bit about our conversation we had with Daniel, right, the CEO of UiPath last week. And so as I kind of discussed that, I gave them a couple of some of the highlights. I said, UiPath, and I think you can disagree or let me know if I'm incorrect, but UiPath is they've doubled down, at least from a comms mining with a comm path and DU to a doc path perspective, right? They're investing in the future of language models and how that incorporates with agents. So that's one. That came from the CEO. They're kind of buying into this future. Then we heard from the CTO of UiPath at the MVP summit, and he said, "Hey guys, all this stuff is great. I love what generative AI is doing." But he said, as far as solving solutions for business, you already have everything you need in your toolkit to solve 99.9% of business problems. Do you remember him mentioning that? He's like, so he said that. So we have one certain person, the CTO, who says, "Hey, you got everything you need to kind of do most of the work. This is cool, but it's a lot of hype." And then you have the CEO who kind of mentions, "Hey, it is a lot of hype, but we're going to invest in R&D and these models and the agent future." But then I also have and so when I mention those 2 points to this group, they're like, wait a minute. One guy says you have everything you need, but then another guy at the top says, we're going to invest in this. And then something else, I didn't mention this point, and so this is what I want to get your opinion on. With those two, we also spoke with George, and he gave an enlightening presentation, and he talked about how DU is dead as far as commoditization is concerned, right?
Yes.
It's hard to make a buck off of DU.
Yeah.
So, he's not sure about that. So with all three of these perspectives, they kind of conflict a little bit. Does that bother you at all, or do you find that interesting of a fact, or what do you think about that?
Let me think for a bit. Not at all. It doesn't bug me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it adds up, right? So it's the way that the market is leaning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I'm going to go back to the Java example that I used in a few sessions already. So we are creating, not we particularly, right? The industry is creating so many things, and it's just becoming another commodity, right? So like DU or like
Mm-hmm.
AI or whatever that is, right? Is going to add up to the portfolio of automation, right?
Yeah.
And then the company will have to pick and choose what the company wants or what they can, right? Not only what they want. So let's say, for example, I am a small company.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about data privacy, or I don't deal with payments cards. I don't want to automate personal information. So I'm all for every new technology that I can have.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to use AI. I'm going to use machine learning. I'm going to use agentic process automation. I'm going to use everything that is there.
Yeah.
Right. That's something. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I am a financial institution. I am very restrict. I have lots of standards. I have to, um, how do they call? I have to report to different
Mm-hmm.
organizations,
Yeah.
regulatory
Yes.
obligations. So, yes, I want to automate because I want to save money, but I want to restrict. Like, I'm not going to use AI because it's too invasive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, just, tossing some thoughts.
No, absolutely. I think all
I'm not
that
going
makes
to use,
sense.
yeah, I'm not going to use machine learning or process mining or task mining because it may capture sensitive data and it may go wrong, right? Goes wrong. So I think it depends very a lot on the scenario. But yeah, so even though different thoughts are tossed by different people that kind of conflict to each other, but I don't know. I think at the end of the day, like we are still, growing the perspective and the
Yep.
options to automate.
No, I think that's spot on too, right? And that was sort of my takeaway too when I kind of digested their question about the conflicting views as I presented the information.
Yeah.
Because I also wanted to see that what their thoughts are, right? Tied into is automation dead? So that's the way that I presented it. I said, hey, if you have a CTO whose role is completely different than the CEO, depending on what part of the growth pattern you are for your organization, like those roles have totally different objectives, right? And
Exactly.
and I think that when it comes to the CEO and the caliber that Daniel is and like his background, like the dude started this organization in a garage with a handful of people. If you don't know the story, it's incredible. I mean, they were running for a couple of years and basically had no money and ran out of any type of money. And they got an email from some guy from a Yahoo, like Rajesh at yahoo.com. And they thought it was asking about their product. And he thought it was sort of a fluke, but it reached out and turned out this guy was connected to a very large organization and they got their shot, right? And now they're $1 billion company. So I think that when you come from that pedigree and you're, from an engineering mindset, that if you don't keep your, eye on where the industry is going and the height, it'll leave you. And so I think that it's good for him to have that perspective to double down on language models. And the CTO coming from Microsoft and decades of experience over there, his head locked into the core technology, the security, saying, hey, this is our core competency. Now I think that's fine, right? There's no issue with me for there being some difference in thought there.
Yeah. Oh, but I don't I don't believe that they are so concerned with security. I mean,
Yeah,
of
I just
course,
threw that out there, but yeah, I was giving an example. Yeah. You got me, damn it.
because
No.
yeah, they want to create the coolest most appealing technologies and features,
Oh,
right?
bro,
Whoever's going to use that has to worry
yeah.
about security.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say that. So, two thoughts to that, right? First of all, I don't think we have a big enough following to get in trouble for sharing this, but remember that feature that we saw where, you're like the easy button? Exactly,
Yeah.
right? They don't, your point is valid. They don't care about security. They're trying to build the future. And I think that stuff like that is incredible. And that will be something that is mind blowing,
Exactly.
right? When people see that kind of technology. So yeah, I think that you're right. Second, doing my research about where this technology is going and all of these agent frameworks, if you will. What the funniest thing about it is like the people that are everybody knows the technology is good and it's very interesting and it's going to go a lot of places, but the people that are most concerned are actually cybersecurity because they don't
Yeah.
how do you sort of guard this stuff, right?
Exactly.
The whole
Especially if you're on the cloud.
yeah.
No, security is a major concern. I agree totally with you.
Yeah.
And I worked, and actually one of the my friends that I'm talking to, it's a security expert
Uh-huh.
and has worked with RPA projects, and it's going to be a very awesome conversation if she agrees to come to the show.
Yep.
Um, but see, I worked a lot with her, and man, the security aspect is so, how can I say, overrated. People don't care, right?
Yeah.
If I and like it's not nobody's fault, right? If I am a developer, right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a position to care about security, right? Because
Yeah.
I want to develop the best code, the coolest, and the with the best performance that is going to do better, you know, 10 out of 10. So
Yep.
that's my worry, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I see my perspective is until I see a stop sign, I'm not gonna stop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I just keep going, keep going until someone says stop, and then I stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is off limits, but someone has to say this is off limits for a developer, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's not gonna, you know, I completely agree with you for that aspect. So my most probably the inappropriate thought, but I guess the main concept is if the CTO and sort of his objectives and the CEO's objectives are different, right? What they're focused on is different. I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? And I think that
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
solid. And I think here's the thing too. You actually touched on this point intuitively, and I brought this up during the conversation I had with the group, and that was when it comes to picking an automation solution, right? Occam's razor, nice. I'm
Definitely.
babysitting here. I'm babysitting. If I drink it any faster, then I'll have to go pee before we get through an hour. My old man bladder.
Oh,
But
I already have my clock 7:30, so
I know,
it's time
right?
for the
There you
second
go.
one.
There you
30
go.
minutes each.
Keep it rotating. I love it. I love it. But what you mentioned is perfect, though, right? Like a company's not going to go out and spend $500,000 for an AI solution when they can make a RPA solution for 40K. It's not. They're not going to do that. And so what I'm seeing from what was posted, the most recent, I don't know if it's Gartner or Forrester, one of the two groups, posted all of the breakdowns of AI projects, and the cheapest ones are basically coding assistants, right? Like commercial use for general AI apps. And there's
Mhm.
anywhere from 100 to 200K upfront cost. And then generally for these types of apps, there's a reoccurring cost per user of 200 to $500. And that's the simple solution. Now there's five categories.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I need to understand that because I don't have this
Sure.
information. So I cannot read. You are saying that the best solution is the one that is costing $200 per person?
No,
No.
So what happened here is basically, let me see too. I think let's see if we can do what I was trying the other day with a little.
To share the screen.
Yeah, boom.
Yeah, that was
okay,
awesome.
There we go. So here's this document too. Let me zoom in a little bit. So basically what you have here is a figure that talks about costs incurred for different types of Gen AI deployments, what you're seeing in the industry right now. And so the most simplest use case was what I was talking about, basically a coding assistant. And that, up front, 100 to 200K, plus if a person's using that model or whatever, this app, this assistant, usually 200 to 500 bucks. Now, what we were talking about last week with Russ was basically this extended category where a document search with RAG, right? So they were using a language model plus RAG to look up information. And so that upfront cost is around $750K to $1 million based off their research. And then there's a recurring cost per user per year of around $1,000 to $11,000, depending on the use case, right? And that's the middle layer. And now you're talking, if I want to build some sort of ultra customizable medical insurance or financial services LLM, some of those are costing anywhere from 8 to 20 million plus 11 to 21 reoccurring cost. So
that's interesting. And I think, well, even 20 million, right? If you put 20 million to build a, like, I don't know what exactly is included in this cost, but 20 million to get it started, and then a monthly cost or either yearly cost. Depending on the size of your organization, that's not too much, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's valid.
Yeah, and you can get that back in a year.
Yeah.
Right. So with the savings that you're going to have.
Well, that's one thing though. Like, so apparently these use cases, right? They're from the other research that I found while reading this, there was a lot of, negative negative balance when it comes to ROI. So that's the big issue right now. So even take the example that Daniel mentioned to us on the phone call where they leveraged it for the blood bank, right? And they were looking, for the people asking questions and stuff. And, because one tainted, situation cost $1 million. So they were using it for a scenario where, basically it just prevented them from a loss of money, right? Which could be quite expensive, millions of dollars. And so in that case, it's sort of like preventing you from losing money. But most scenarios, I mean, I think that Russ gave a good example because it took 2 people to read through these legal documents with LLMs versus, 10 to 12 contract readers. So, I think that's an obvious value, right? That requires less resources. So, I think that's where we're at now, right? I'm seeing a lot of stuff about, we talk about RAG, right? We're just now learning about RAG, and you're already hearing about agentic RAG as a form of agent framework. So I think it's pretty crazy. But I mean, honestly, though, $1 million, you can build quite a big automation solution for that same price point, right? For $1 million.
Automation? No, hold on. Automation solution?
Yeah.
I mean, one automation or?
I mean, how many could you build for $1 million? You could probably build quite a few. I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because man, see, so let me just think for a second.
Okay, so if you're here and you're still interested, as Joe thinks about this, if you want some free beer money, $50 in beer money, or you can buy a burger called burger money, bot money, whatever, bots or beers money. Type in bots in the chat and we'll give out some beer money. Well, you have to have like Cash App because that's all I got until we get more sophisticated. But continue your thoughts, Joe.
You kind of helped me to lose my train of thought. But so here's
how much money can you save? What can you do with $1 million with an automation program?
So it depends, right? If again, different companies, different environments, different speed, development speed, right? So if we are in a highly regulated, a lot of restrictions, a lot of standards, a lot of you know things to fulfill before you get started, like that's very costly.
Yeah.
So an automation is not that cheap.
Mm.
Excuse me. But now you are in a very small company. You have a couple of developers
Yeah.
that can just go ahead and create the automation, deploy to production,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and move forward. Man, I already created automation myself
Yeah.
in a week.
Yep.
That could that could save easily hundreds of hours per year.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not mistaken, like I might lie here or not lie, just hide the truth, but like 600 hours. So I spent like, let's say, 20 hours
Mm-hmm.
developing automation in a production environment. I didn't have a development environment.
Yeah.
That was saving like, let's put low, like 300 hours a year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge saving, right? But I was doing myself. I was the business
Pretty big.
analyst. I was a developer. I was a tester. I
Yeah.
was even the business user because the automation was for my team, right? So I knew what we needed.
Yeah.
So that's one. I don't know if it's rare, but it's not the what we see usually there, right?
Yeah. I mean, but it's still like it's not uncommon, right? I see those types of situations. I think like one of our first episodes, I talked about how we saved like like 2 or 3 million in just like a week, right? Like it was just something crazy, a massive backlog. USA, I mean, AFES, retail organization built an automation that saved them 17 million after the backlog was cleared. Freed up 17 million in capital.
Really?
Yeah, it was
Wow.
the webinar is still on Carasoft. You can go to the website and they have the webinar is still listed under there. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Oh, I need to get the woman that started that program. Remind me offline to reach out to her and see if we can get her on the show.
Which program?
The AFES.
Oh,
AFES.
AFIS. Okay.
Yeah, so AFES is like a big military retailer, global retailer, massive, thousands of retail stores across the globe. Deborah Zarsk was the woman who was responsible for pioneering their program there, and she's the one that talked on that webinar. She's retired now, so I think depending on what her schedule is like, if we reach out, maybe we can get some free time from her. But she's very I would love to hear like where their program went after that, right? Because I just went there, helped establish it from the beginning, launched their first, dozen, 2 dozen. We launched the first dozen automations and then had the backlog prepped for the next, and got them really established. So I'd love to hear their scale story. I mean, that's something we can do too. I can reach out to some of the old organizations that I started RPA programs with like 10 years ago, and we can see what they're
Mhm.
doing now, right? That'd be cool to see,
Well,
what's still
because
working.
that goes back to one of my questions that I have.
Yeah, I know,
Uh,
right?
the Okay, okay,
No,
I
no,
will
no. Sorry,
challenge
I was
you.
reading the chat. I was reading the chat. The chat I said, make sure the program went well, right? I bring her on, and then she's like, "That was horrible. It was the worst program ever. What kind of methodology was that?" Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
horrible.
no, but one of my questions to anybody that works with RPA is the longevity, right? So,
Yeah.
how long does an automation last overall, right? And I know this will vary from company to company, right? Because again, there's different levels of complexity and standards and whatnot.
Yeah.
So probably people will, by now people are already tired of hearing that, but small companies will treat differently in automation, right? So, and even like same size companies, like they may
Mm-hmm.
see an automation as a strategic. And remember, I was asking this question to Graham on the summit.
Yeah.
So RPA may be seen as a strategic solution, right? But an automation itself may be temporary, and this will vary from company to company. And this, I remember when I first heard this thought, it kind of shook me because I had this mindset. Oh, automation is the, is the uh, creme de la creme, right?
Right. It is the answer, the solution.
Yeah. So it's the answer for everything. And
Yeah.
then this guy was an architect, and I really appreciate his work. He
Hmm.
said, no, the automation program is strategic, right? Because at the end of the day, it's going to save money to the company. But the automation, the single automation itself is temporary, right?
Yep.
Because we are doing this for a certain period of time to save money and allow a permanent solution that's going to fix that once for all.
Yeah, I think. Well, that's the thing, though, right? I don't, and that's why it would be great to have those conversations with some of these people, right? Because I'd love to see. There's no doubt, and so here's I'm going through this situation as we speak, right? This is not something I'll get in trouble with sharing. My organization is going through an S4 HANA migration, right? And
Mhm.
so it's it's to be assumed that obviously if you've built something that's on prem and a certain ERP system and you move to a cloud version of that ERP system, like some of your bots are not gonna be there. Some of them you'll have to like they're not gonna work first of all, and the
Yep.
ones that you some of them you just won't rebuild, right? And so depending on what you did or what actually was built, there might be a situation there where you don't use it. So I would love to see that. And then there might be situations too where we talk to some people from our past and they're like, dude, 12 years later that bot is still doing it. And you'd be like, bro, that would be crazy, right? To see something like that you
Yeah.
built like 10 years ago.
Of course, because if I think as from a developer perspective, I want my stuff
Yeah.
to last as long as possible.
Yep. Yeah.
And I am, yeah,
Right.
and man, there's a funny story here now. And
Yeah.
this may
I'm
see,
listening. I'm gonna get a beer. I still have the headphones on. You tell me.
yeah,
I'm gonna get a
I
beer.
am see, I admire everybody, like everybody believes and
Yeah.
everything else. But I remember my first company, my first IT job. I was a trainee, so I was developer trainee,
Okay.
and I was developing with a tool that is not even in the market anymore. I believe it's called Power Builder,
Hmm.
and the company was creating software with this tool for like a decade, over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
There were quite a few folks that were there from the beginning, and one of them, he was very very religious. So every program that he would work on,
Yeah.
instead of making comments saying, oh, this section is responsible for gathering the credentials, typing the password, and then logging into the system, blah, 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 he would put a sum on the comments.
What?
Seriously, man. Seriously. He would put Psalm 11, Jesus, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
That was his comment.
Comment out. No, that's so, dude. That when you go to the code, man, you see some crazy stuff, man. Like one of these days, I gotta remember to bring it up, but I'll show you. I have it. I think not only do I have a picture saved of it, I think I have the actual automation saved. I don't even know if it still works nowadays, but I used to show people this, and it was like something that somebody had built, and I could just imagine like being the QA or being the solution architect and opening up this XAML and like looking at this workflow and being like, oh my god, what happened? I mean, I'd never seen so many nested if thens and like there must have been no less than like 200 activities and flows, like flow controls, like on the paint on the
Wow.
pane in the designer pane. I was like in one, and then there was like all of this mess, and you drill down into one workflow, and then it's like another untangled mess, and you're like, dude, how in the hell does anybody test this? Like, how do you build this?
Yeah,
Said I've
but
left some terrible
man,
examples and seen worse. Yeah, happens.
regardless the technology, it can be UiPath, can be whatever RPA, it can be Java, C++, whatever. There's good developers, there's bad developers, right?
Yeah.
There's good code, there's bad code. There's people that cares about, the longevity and care about the next generation of folks that are going to work with that program and put good comments, create variables that mean something, right? Not only variable one or auxiliary variable one,
Right, right,
right?
right.
Or number one. Man, I've seen so many things because almost 2 decades developing and working with developers,
Yep.
like, taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I am one of the guys that is going to spend time to put comments and really describe what I meant when I thought. Because even myself, when I write a code, right, when I have the opportunity to do
Yep.
that, like, I have a train of thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
But later on, when I review that code, that I don't have the same train of thought, right? So I may have problems to understand what I did myself, right? So I need that comment even for myself.
Right. Oh my gosh, right, dude. I swear to God, back. So I don't come from a computer science background, right? So you can imagine someone who's like a process engineer and just like learning code on the side and built these,
Mhm.
bro. Like I would get into situations, especially when it comes to like if then logic, when it was like doing
Um,
like calculations where I'd put a note in there and I would just confuse my own ass. Like I would be doing it backwards, like the inverted to do, and I would put the comment in there. And then when I would go back or I'd have a problem and I would look at my notes or the comments, I would be like, what does that even mean? What does it mean? But I wasn't trained in it, right? So I never was like, I
right.
wasn't like learning how to like comment in or like,
So
do your variables.
the
That used to be the worst one. The variable, and you didn't name your activity, and you're looking at your debug, and you're like, dude, what the hell is unassigned? What is this variable?
yeah, yeah, no, I know what you mean. So you didn't learn to code in old language like C++ or Java or
Nothing. The closest I got was some Visual Basic, and I got a shout out to Christopher Carmona. Right, I wouldn't have probably even been here if he didn't take the time. He was a brilliant developer, and he was basically a guy who was building RPAs without the software. Before RPAs were that, he was building, complicated applications that tied into Access, and he used Visual Basic, and he would build like web applications and kind of connect it to where it was a robot. Essentially, it was just an
Mhm.
RPA robot without any software, just Visual Basic code stringing together Microsoft and SharePoint, and so I
Awesome.
think that, excuse me, the only reason I kind of got into it, and that's why I found my way into RPA, was we were building these things, and I was a process engineer, and I was also like helping do the PDDs, and like he just saw that I could get the technical part as well as the process part, and so he would just teach me, and I wanted to learn. So I'd be like, how in the hell
Man,
did you get that to do that? And he's like, oh, I use Visual Basic, but he was a coder, and he took time. He took time and he said, this is, and he explained it to me. And I just thought it was awesome. And then we got Automation Anywhere, and the rest is history. So,
man, it's so awesome because there's the decision tree, your in your life,
yep,
and one decision can change the entire perspective of the rest of your life, right?
yep,
And as you were saying your story, like, it reminded me because when I started, like, back then, almost 20 years ago, I was in college
mm-hmm,
and I was studying. I was doing information. How do you call it in English? Information systems, translating, free translation. So I was on the college.
yep,
It was the third semester, so I was 1 year and a half down the road of studying. And there was this company from the city that where I was living,
yep,
and they were recruiting students from the college.
yep,
And there was one question on a form that I put.
Mm-hmm.
The question was, do you want to work with development? And I put yes.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't even know what that yes meant at the time, because
He was like, I just want it. I just want
I
it.
was I was learning, literally, I was not learning actual coding. I was
Yep.
learning like semantics and doing some, free translations. Like, I was not coding actually, but I put a
That's
yes
cool.
there, even though I didn't know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, I'm still very thankful to this guy. I worked with him later on. The guy that hired me, um, he selected me just because I put a yes on that question, right? And but then that was not the end. That was actually the beginning, because then I had to go through a 4 month training program. I had to do assessments,
Yep.
tests, and like we were in a class with 12 folks for 4 months, doing training, and just like three of us got hired, you know.
That's
And
wild.
man,
Still, that's so
it,
cool.
man, see, one question, and man, I get emotional with this, because if I draw a decision tree in my life,
Yeah.
that one question create a branch to
Bro,
entire life, man.
bro, I can't. And you and I had a conversation, a short chat after last week's episode, right? And so some of my
Mhm.
plans, right? The funny thing is I didn't talk to you about this, but I'm putting together one of the stories that I'm putting together. The title for the book is going to be called Impact, right? Because
Wow.
it's literally that exact scenario where you have no idea in your life as you're like just going through and traversing this thing that is just crazy that we're all going through, and you have no idea the guy that you might, or woman, anybody that you could just bump into that completely changes the trajectory of your entire life story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm going to share some of these in forward when I do my presentation, and I'll do it again, when the time is right on Bots to Beers. But I'll have to tell you, so I told you about my first RPA job, but I'll have to tell you how I got it. And I'll even open up how I was almost literally, Joe, I was almost homeless. I was almost homeless.
Wow.
And so when you have this feeling about like this one little decision, a one little checkbox, ended up taking you on this path that you could have never imagined. The same thing happened in my scenario, right? And so, I can't wait to kind of share that story, and then I'll share it here, and obviously, bigger parts of that. But I know that there are people that, or even in our chat, or people who listen to this who know about my history, who know this, right? So I agree with you. I couldn't agree more, and I think that sentiment is perfect. And I'm glad that you are the type of person. That's probably why we get along so well. Is you're the kind of person who stops and smells the roses, and you can appreciate,
Yeah.
some of those little tiny nuances. What it means. So, cheers to you, brother, and us,
Yeah.
and further episodes. You're empty, man. Hey,
Sure.
well, you're 5 minutes
No,
early. Oh, okay, there we go.
it's not
Perfect.
it. But yeah, man, and see, one very, very no, no, see,
Yeah.
uh a continuation of this story,
Yep.
because I got hired. I worked with the company for some years, and then I left. I went on later years back, further. I actually referred that guy that hired me to the company that I was working on, and I was working side by side to him. And that to me was kind of, oh my god, I am working next to my hero, right? Because at that point he was still my hero, because I learned
Yeah.
so much from him.
Right.
And yeah, I had so much. I still have a
Dude.
lot of respect to him, man.
Dude, that's why I
And
even mentioned Chris Carmona, right? And if he's on LinkedIn, I definitely encourage you guys to follow him. Like the personality, and like I looked up to him, right? And here's the situation. Like I said, I was almost homeless. I don't want to tell the story because I'm gonna wait, but getting that opportunity, like I was locked in, right? I was locked in, and I wanted to I wanted to earn, I got in that situation. I was like, dude, I'm never going to get here again. And when I find the opportunity, I'm going to make sure that I build the skills that I need. Right. And so this person, he was the same way, dude. I saw the way that he was able to communicate, and this was at USAA. Right. So I saw the way he was able to communicate with a business and how he could take these complex technical topics and, explain to them the solution and, get asked. I understood how he could ask questions too to find all of the requirements and the hidden stuff and just the way he could get about it. And I would hear the operations folks give feedback when we did, our review after our retrospective after the project. And they would just like glow about how great this guy was. And I could see it. It was like a rock star. It was just, he was incredible. And it wasn't just like this guy was proficient in coding. Like he knew USAA's business model. Like I remember when I first got there, he took me to a conference room and he had a whiteboard. And like he said, okay, here's USAA. He's like, this PNC, this is property and casualty. And he explained to me what the hell property and casualty was. He was like, here's banking, here's, this and that. And he was like, he knew the people's names. Like, here's the VP and here's what he does. And here's the, black belt team. And I was just like, how is he just pulling this out of his brain? So he knew the business, he knew the technology. And from day one, it was like an inspiration. Like it was something to kind of, I want to be like that. And then you hear people talking about him, and I was like, I want them to talk about me like that, like, dude, he's great. I love working with him. When can we do the next project,
And man, that's what we have to look for, with wherever we are, no matter what we are doing, no
Yep.
matter where we are, we have to find people that's going to help us to improve, right?
Yeah.
And I do love friendship. I do love my friends, but sometimes it can be detrimental to your career and to your
Oh,
to you as a person, right?
yeah. I got
Because
an opinion about this too, right? And so and I have a strong opinion about this.
go ahead.
And so I think that you got to kind of recognize that, right? And you're never your friends, and we talked about how, the impact that one person can have or one decision can have. So you never and if you have a friendship and somebody spent time on you guys, that's so precious, right? So friendships are one thing. You never want to get rid of friends, but Joe, you're absolutely correct, right? There's sometimes if you're trying to get somewhere and you're in that driver's seat and you got to get to where you're headed, sometimes you got to tell your friend to hop in the back seat. Like, hey, bro, like,
Or just get out of the car.
Yeah. I don't. That's to say I don't want to kick you out of the car, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you do. Like that's the ultimate situation.
It's true.
Most times if they're true friends, you can just be like, hey, bro, my life's kind of going in this direction right now, and I got to lean into it. And me and we had some times, but I need you in the back seat. If you're friends, our time will come again. But yeah, no, I agree with you, dude. Like, but sometimes it can slow down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not something that you have to say specifically or
yeah, no, absolutely,
directly.
Absolutely. That's because, metaphorically correct.
Yeah, here's a very, very another quick story.
Yeah,
but man, back home, I had so many friends. I could find job like this. I could change jobs like this whenever I wanted.
Yep.
I had my network.
Yes,
but that also limited me, and that was subconsciously.
Yeah,
right? Because
it makes you comfortable.
Exactly. And I love to work with them. Like we had so good environment. It was so awesome. Like,
yeah,
overnight crisis call was awesome because we would just chat around. We would, chit chat, and man, it was fun. Right. So
yeah,
we waited for that. Mm-hmm. So we wanted that.
Yes.
And then everybody is doing the same thing. It kind of, in your subconscious, holds you up because then, man, if I go up, like I may lose this, right?
Yeah.
So I have no awareness whatsoever of that. But then I got here in this country, in Canada.
Yep.
I had no friends. I have no one to talk. I have nothing. I just talked to my manager. Man, like I grew in 18 months. I grew more, professionally speaking.
There you go.
More than years back home. Years.
I love that. Some people won't trade that in,
Yeah. So you have to balance, right?
Hmm.
There's pros and cons in every aspect. You know, there's two sides of the coins always.
Yeah.
Um, would I want to go back and work with my friends and have that good vibe? I don't know.
It's still debate, right? Time will tell. Time will
Exactly,
tell. No, I have
exactly.
a
But
question too to kind of like
sure.
to wrap it up. So for that from that scenario, was that something and you don't have to get like into the details if you're not, just like yes or no is fine. Was it a situation where you had the choice and it was your choice to go to Canada, or was it something where and put yourself in this new environment, or were you sort of like, I ain't got no choice, but I'm gonna make the most of it? Because it's different too, because it can change person's like perspective.
Yeah, no, we definitely had the choice.
Okay, cool.
Was an option to come to Canada.
Yep.
My wife and I had, we we made a thoroughly, thought process during the decision making, and
Yeah.
we decided, no, we are done with our country. Let's move on. Canada seems to be the ideal place to go, and then we had it.
Yep.
um
I
a
love
lot
that.
of
It's
things
brave.
we didn't know
Yeah, it's
when we got
wild.
here,
Hmm.
man. y- and see, I actually today I'm better on this, but I used to be very bad on planning. So I was more, man, let's ride this wild horse and see how it goes, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you figure it out while you were doing.
Hmm. Yep.
That's was how I was. I don't know. I'm just rumbling my words.
No, you're good. You're good. I love it.
Um, so I learned what I needed to get out of Brazil,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
But when I got here, I learned that I knew little to nothing, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No doubt. No doubt.
And if I knew what I know today, I don't know if I would have come.
Yeah, no, and but you never know though, right? Like it's like, I remember when I was in the military, right before my first deployment, I happened to deploy with one of the people in the chat. And I
Really?
remember I remember like going on or before the deployment thinking, I remember talking to somebody like an NCO who had already been on one deployment, and he was telling me like what it was like. And then I remember going on the deployment and thinking like, that shit was nothing like what he said. That was nowhere near what he said it was like. It was
Yeah.
totally different. And then I remember when I went on my second deployment thinking like, well, hey, shit, I've been here before. I know what this is going to be like. And it was totally different. And then all of a sudden, I find myself, in a different country with somebody, and my whole unit has no idea that I'm in Qatar and not in Iraq. So that's a whole other story, and I'll save that for another time, or maybe even the book. But I get it, and yeah, I'm in that boat, right? Because as a military spouse, I move every 2 to 3 years, right? So the good thing is I'm not moving out of the country, right? It's around the U.S., but it's the same. And I don't know, maybe this is bad, maybe this is good. But being in the military, it taught me a very bad habit where I don't get too connected, right? Because I'm like,
Really?
hey, I know this person, but in 3 years, we're going to go our separate ways, right? Like, or 2 to 3 years, he's going to deploy or she's going to deploy, and they're going to go here, there, and I'm going to go to a different duty station, and it'll be a random group of people, and I got to learn all this shit again. And I got to learn the people, I got to learn the environment and the leadership. And so at first, like, you deploy and you get some really good bonds and stuff, but eventually, it's sort of like I don't know if it's a coping mechanism or defense, but it gets to where you're like, you don't ever get too invested because you're like, I'm going to PCS. And I PCSed at least 10 times and over 10 times just in my decade in. And so now I'm still doing it. And so unfortunately, I don't know if it's a bad cycle, but, most places I can't, like 3 or 4 PCSs, I'm in the same boat where I don't get that, maybe that vibe because I don't, I'm like, hey, I'm going to be here for 2 years and I'm gone anyway. Right. So it's sort of a unique perspective. But in this, and I don't know, maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's something that I should invest more in those relationships. Time will tell. But that's one of those things I think about, though, right? Because there is a cost to moving.
Yeah.
I enjoy
Yeah.
the excitement of going to a new place, though, right? This is not something that's negative. I enjoy going to a new environment and kind of being, like triggered to, learn new things, learn a new place, learn a new route, right? Whatever it is. But it is different, right? It does come at a cost, I think.
Yeah, I know. I hear you, but one thing I changed after I got here.
Mm-hmm.
I got more secluded on my own house, on home,
You like
right?
your own bubble.
Yeah, so I have my wife, I have my daughter. I love to be with them, and it's hard for me to make new friends because
Yeah.
I don't go out as often. I don't go
Yeah.
to the office as often, and
Mm-hmm.
I just actually like to be that way.
Yeah, I don't know, dude, and that's something to be said too, right? It's so weird. I don't know who out there or who will listen to this who's kind of in this category, but I feel like I'm in this unique perspective, and you seem very similar in a way where we are both of the nature that we're effective communicators. People meet us, and there's something about they're drawn to us, right? They want to
Yeah,
hang out, they want to talk, and even we are good. We are good at going and having a conversation with people we've never met.
exactly,
But
exactly.
but it's so weird. Like it's so weird when you have that skill set, but your default is I'd rather kind of be at home. I don't want to be going out. I don't want to, deal with the stuff. And again, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if maybe COVID's changed people's perspective on this, but what are
Hundred
your thoughts?
percent,
You think so?
100%, a hundred
Society's
percent.
kind of
Quote has
like,
changed because, see, I was very, very, always I was very extrovert, right?
yeah,
I love to talk to my friends. I love to hang out and just chit chat, and
yep.
that was it. But after COVID, I don't like that anymore. And see, my wife used to be very on her own,
Yep.
and she didn't like to talk people too much, and it got worse with COVID. But I've never thought that I would be going that route,
Mm-hmm.
of not not wanting to talk to people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because just last Sunday I was at home. My daughter was playing on the street, so
Yeah.
we got in a neighborhood. She found some friends,
Mm-hmm.
and it was dark. She was on their backyard playing, and I thought, oh, I have to go there pick her up. It's
Yeah.
very close, right? It's just like 2 minutes walking. I got there, and there was a crowd of people. Like
Yeah.
they were fishing. They got a
Oh
like
yeah.
a huge fish, and they were
Oh
just
wow.
gutting the fish, and they were preparing to deep fry
Oh,
on
that
their
sounds
backyard.
delicious. Oh hell yeah.
And I I didn't want to talk to anybody. I
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to get my daughter, get out, and go home. But all of the
I'm the
sudden,
same though. Ah, it's so weird. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all of the sudden, someone just started talking to me,
Yep.
and I just went.
Just like
I
cruise, there's like
started, yeah,
response. Yeah, like the cruise
and
control
then
and
when I noticed, like I was there for half an hour, maybe more, just talking, and
yep.
it was an awesome guy.
Yeah.
He was like, he's an immigrant like me from another country, from Ukraine,
Yeah.
and we were just chatting, and when I all of the sudden I was already enlisted to the soccer Friday night,
Yeah.
and that's where I am right now.
Hey, sometimes it works out like that. I
But
I yeah.
no, but my initial thought was, man, I don't want to talk. I just want to get in, get
Yep.
out, and go home.
No, it's so funny too. I think this is a lesson that my wife has taught me through years of I hope she's not listening, through years of her being right and me always being wrong. And it's like she knows that, I'm always kind of grumpy, about going to stuff like that too, right? But,
Mm,
as soon as I go there and we start the conversations and I'm like, and then I'm like, that was fun. So, I'm usually the same way, but I agree, right? As soon as you kind of get there, you get opened up. And, you told me a story. And so we're about we were a few minutes late, so we're okay to go over, but
no, it's fine. It's fine.
I gotta tell this last story, right? I think you're gonna find this hilarious. So, when I was deployed in Iraq, right, and we had this we had a couple of what they call like shelters, like communication shelters. So you
Mhm.
imagine like an Army Humvee, and then all of a sudden there's this big box, looks like a camper on top of it. It's like a little mini camper, and there's comms equipment in there. But anyway, we've got like 2 or 3 of these trucks and a big old camo net. You know, we're underneath this camo, and we had a bunch of these things called chem lights. You can imagine like the glow sticks, little glow sticks. And you got a bunch of soldiers, a junior enlisted. There's no sergeant among us. We're just a bunch of, you know, kids in the war zone. And we got this bright idea to grab these chem lights and start a chem light war. There was another little Marine. We were on a Marine base in Fallujah, Iraq. Right next to us was a Marine communications. So they had their big shelters and their camo nets and everything on top of it. And so what we decided to do, I don't know what, you know, I think maybe we're getting close to going home. And dude, I don't know you're in a war zone, so I don't even know why we would do this. This is a horrible, if you know a term, light discipline, like you know how bad this is. So we're over here, right? And we're in this tent, and we decide like these guys are over there. At this point, we've been there for 12 months. We kind of know them. And we decide, hey, you know, we're going to mess with them. So we take these chem lights and we start like chopping the tops off of them. And we start pouring them into Gatorade bottles, like filling a whole Gatorade bottle of this glow in the dark, you know, light stick juice. And we like start poking holes in it. And we get these like little kind of like chem light grenades, like 4 or 5 of them. And we start chucking them, and we like throw them on top of the Marines, like big camo net in the middle of the desert, in the middle of Iraq. And so we like take them and we throw it, and they start rolling down the camo, and they completely light this entire camo net up, glow in the dark. Like it looks like a goddamn rave, and we're in the middle of a combat zone. And so like they come out and they're like, what? They're like, what the hell? And so like they know at this point, and they're like, fine. They grab it and they start throwing them back at us, and they throw them on top. And, you know, like 30 minutes later, like all of our camos are drenched in the chem. They're just glowing like some sort of crazy ass party.
Everybody can see where you are.
And we didn't think about that. Yeah. But from miles away, they probably this big glowing camo nets. And we're on the FOB. This is Fallujah, like 2004 or 5. It's like really early. And they have roving guards that go around this tiny little base, and they show up at like 3 a.m. This is early, it's late. They show up at 3 a.m. and they're like, they come like knocking on our shelter. And, you know, me and one of my buddies in here, his name's Lance, we like go out the shelter. We're like, come out. And we're like, yeah, what's going on? And we tried to act like we were surprised. Like we were in the, you know, like we'll just act like we didn't know what happened. And so we step out of the tent, and they're like, yeah, we got reports that there was some sort of crazy glow stick thing going on over here. And we look at him, and we're like, dude, we have no idea. Like we're like looking around at our net. We're like, what the hell? Trying to act as surprised as we can. And then just about this time, like our clothes start to glow. And then you see like we're like covered in glow. So we tried to act like we had no idea what was going on. And we're like covered in this glow juice, and it's like lighting up. And they're like, so you guys have no idea what's going on here. And we're like, we have no idea. And our pockets are glowing from the Gatorade bottles being in there. Yeah, so crazy enough, man. Like that's what happens. You leave some privates around, right?
Have you watched Hotel Transylvania?
Yeah, right. No, I didn't see that though.
There's a old aunt. She's a monster, and you know, and there's a scene. A bike is I don't know, something is going through, and she just swallowed, and then she says, I don't know what's going on. Oh, I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but
I can imagine.
I haven't seen anything, something like that. You look like her.
That's exactly who we were, man. We were like, bro, we have no idea what's going on. And our pockets just like glowing, going, oh my God, dude. Yeah, hey, luckily we did not get in trouble for that. And crazy enough, that isn't the craziest thing that we did. So I'll save that story for another time, Joe. But man, there you go. That was a crazy Chemlight story. I hope we can't get in trouble for that. It's been too long. We're good.
I have so many stories as you know, I was growing as a kid, you know, in the
Mm,
countryside, but I don't want to get that mixed with your,
there we go.
army, because I know I cannot imagine how difficult it is to go through a deployment and get a,
Wild.
you know so I know it's crazy, I know it's wild, and I do respect. You have nothing but respect from me
Thank you,
with
sir.
this moments. I cannot say that I imagine. I cannot say that I know. There's no words to describe what is to be deployed in an unknown place, in an unknown situation,
Mm,
in like an uncontrolled environment
yeah,
that you don't know what's going to happen the next second.
man.
And
So true. So true.
and see, there's I lack words to describe how much respect I have to that.
Oh, no, you
And
don't have to.
you
Thank
made
you.
it through, and so I'm very thankful because now we're here at
Yeah,
least.
hey, dude, you stole it from me. I was gonna do that same thing. I was like, bro, I would do it all again because even in your terms, it would have led to the branch that got me here, to this
Yeah,
conversation that we're having,
exactly.
right? So
The choices.
there we go, there we go, brother. All right, Frey, we
Man,
gotta. I would love to continue this, but my old man bladder after two is finally kicking in, brother. So
okay. Well, so
closing thoughts, friend. What do you got?
okay, so first thing first, we
Yep.
may have we may make that the rule. We do this until we have to go pee.
There we go. It'll be a good joke, especially for
Yeah,
us old timers. I love it.
yeah. But man, closing thoughts. I love this again and again. I already missing our conversation,
Yep.
and
Same.
longing for the next Thursday. And man, let's get this going.
Love it.
I'm not gonna ask what you are planning for the next um, for our next
Episode 10, right? That's the last
episode.
one.
It's going to be the last one. So yeah, I'm going to hold that thought. I'm gonna wait anxiously,
Yes.
but I'm gonna wait. But yeah, um, let's get the next guest,
Yes.
and let's keep going, man.
Love it, dude. Love this conversation. Love this interaction to the moon and then beyond, brother. I think that's where we're headed. We just focus on the little things. Thank you so much for everyone that came out and hung out in the chat. We're here to share this message and here for you guys. Let's make this a community. Thank you so much, Joe. Ladies and gentlemen, Boots to Bots, episode number 9 in the books.
Bots and beers, man.
Yeah, bots and beers. Thank you. From the boots and the bots. Thank you, friend. Love you guys. Have a good one. Joe,
Man,
have a good evening, sir. I love you, brother. Woo! Oh, got a theme music going.